Welcome everyone, this is Andres Restart. This is my channel. I do a weekly Nintendo podcast Monday nights 9 p.m. Eastern Time. And yeah, so we have a lot to talk about today, but as usual I'm joined by Brandon from What About Nintendo. I don't know what happened with Will from Blue Will the Deity. He may be coming on later into the show. Hopefully he's not dead. And we have a special guest, Mars, from Lazzy James. Hopefully I got your channel name right, man. But how you doing?
I'm doing good, man. Thanks for having me on here.
Yeah.
I found out your channel through Monolith. I kind
Yeah.
of been following you on Twitter and such things, so thanks for having me on here.
Yeah, for sure, bro. Yeah, is there anything you want to kind of say about your channel or anything like that, like what you do?
Yeah, I'm really just starting out, kind of small, trying to keep it. I got a little intimate community going on, but mostly Nintendo. I'm thinking of buying a PlayStation here pretty soon, but if you watch my channel, you're getting mostly Nintendo, Splatoon, that kind of thing.
Yeah, no, for sure. Yeah, I mean, like, I saw your Splatoon video. I was like, oh yeah, this is great. So like, guys in the chat, check out Mars. The link to his channel is in the description below. And if you haven't seen Brandon before, the link to his channel is also in the description below, as well as Will, even though I don't know where he is right now. But yeah. So let's kind of see how the chat's going. I know Final Fantasy VII Remake was here earlier before the stream started, as well as Shuntaro Furukawa. If you guys are here, hello to you guys. What is up, Josh? Yeah, we're gonna definitely talk about that Walmart E3 leak really soon. Hey, Sabba64, Jeremy, Zach is back. Nintendo confirmed Knack. Oh, that's in yeah. Yeah, no filter, Nintendo podcast. What's up, bro? So yeah, I mean, I think we're ready to get started. Is there anything else you guys want to sort of like talk about before we jump into the topics?
I'm good on mine.
Cool. So yeah, let's just jump in then. All right. So Brandon, you kind of I don't know who was it, Brandon or Will. Both of you guys sort of told me about the trademarks that I completely missed before the show was going to start. And yeah, there's trademarks that were made, and there's a lot of them. So basically, these trademarks are made. These are the games. I'm just gonna list them off right now: Super Smash Bros., Star Fox, F-Zero, Pikmin, Yoshi's Island, Art Style, Flipnote Studio, Sin and Punishment, The Legendary Starfy, Nintendogs, Link's Crossbow Training, Wii Fit, Wii Music, Wii Play, and Wii Sports. I don't know if you guys noticed, but those are all like during the Wii Nintendo DS era. So I don't, Virtual Console's dead. Maybe, right? I don't know what's going on with these games, if they're new games or not. I mean, I'll have some ideas, but, Brandon, what are your sort of thoughts on this sort of list of trademark games that we just heard about?
Yeah, a lot of people, upon hearing that apparently Virtual Console is dead, kind of assumed that, the games we're getting with the online service, the 20 NES games, were going to be all of the, the classic games we get. And like it would only be in the online service. I kind of disagreed at the time, and I kind of have my own theory of how they could do it and different things like that. And I think this kind of backs it up a little bit. I think these games could definitely be some sort of classic line of games where maybe they release them in packs, as I suggested, or they release them standalone, or something like that. Instead of doing a virtual console, calling it virtual console, maybe they just want to rebrand it, do it a different way. And it was interesting because they also trademarked these for the use in smartphones. So I'm thinking maybe some of these games could be good for on the phone. Like Nintendogs, I think could be a perfect mobile game, kind of hitting into that casual, more female audience that Nintendo doesn't really get into that much. And I think they need to get into that market a little more. So that's just my thoughts. Probably some sort of classic line and maybe some mobile games as well.
That's an interesting point, and actually, when I look at it, like Flipnote Studio, from what I remember of that, right, like that would probably go really well with mobile, right? So yeah, I can see how some of these could definitely be mobile games, but I do feel like most of these games are, if they're gonna come back, it's because it's like a virtual console sort of deal. Maybe it won't be called Virtual Console, but it'll be something like that. Like we did see with the NVIDIA Shield in China, right? That they have Wii games that are being emulated, right? And most of these games are Wii games. So like Wii Fit, Wii Music, Link's Crossbow Training. There's something, I feel like, there might be emulating a lot of Wii games in the future, whatever they're going to call it. I don't know, but I mean, that's what I think this is about, because there's no way they're going to bring back you know, Wii Fit or Wii Music.
Mm-hmm.
I don't see that happening. But Mars, what are your sort of thoughts about these trademark titles? Is there anything you would like to see, or what do you think about this?
I'm thinking along the lines of what Brandon is saying. I mean, if the virtual console is going to be gone, those trademarks just came out. I think Nintendo likes to be ahead of what they're doing, so they're just knocking it out right now while they can. They probably have a little time, and then I think the virtual console is gone, but they'll come with Netflix style, like I think a lot of people are saying on social media. And the games are all to be ready to go. Put them in there. You can pick what game you want to play. So I'm thinking along those lines when it comes to the trademarks, just being ahead of the game.
Yeah, and actually, personally, that's what I want, right? Like, I would love it. I know some people want to own their games, and maybe they'll have that option too going forward. But personally, I would love to just pay a monthly fee and have access to a growing library of games.
Mm-hmm.
And technically, right, the 20 NES games that are coming with Nintendo's Online are that, right? Like, it's a library of games that you have access to all of them if you're paying the monthly, or you're paying for the Nintendo's Online service. Now, right now it's it's a small value, right? But maybe they'll expand upon that. Maybe they'll have a higher, a better version of that, where you get Wii games or GameCube games or N64 games, maybe for a higher price monthly, but you get a much bigger library. And I would love that. I would love that Netflix-like service. Mm-hmm. So I'm right there with you.
Yeah, and I think a Netflix-type service can allow for more experimentation among these old games, because a lot of people, they just go on there, they buy NES Legend of Zelda, they go buy the original Mario Bros, Super Mario World or whatever. They just go and buy these titles they know. But if you have like a Netflix-type service, I mean, it doesn't cost you any more to just try out another game on there that you might not know, and it could be a hidden gem that you didn't know about, and you could really, really enjoy it. So I think that allows for more experimentation with how to, like, do I really want to pay $5 for this NES game that I don't know if it's going to be good or not? So I think that's a much better way to do it.
Absolutely. So then, let me see what you guys are saying in the chat about trademarks. Mars, Brandon, if there's anything else you want to add while I'm checking the chat, by all means do so. But let's just kind of see what you guys are saying. Hello, ZW.
One thing I do want to say is that with the virtual console versus if they do the Netflix, a lot of people are sad about virtual console, yes, but the Netflix is the way to go. Any game, I was waiting on the game Zombie Ate My Neighbors for virtual console. Took forever, but with the Netflix style, they can just throw games on there, you just stream the games.
Mm-hmm.
I think I would really like it if they went that way.
Yeah, I do think that's the more progressive way to do it, right? That's the modern way to do things now. It makes sense. It's something that Nintendo has been behind on. I think they definitely, they're already showing signs of it with Nintendo's Online, right? So I think it makes a lot of sense.
And I think the emulation quality should be a lot better this time around. On the Wii U, if you compare it to like their newer emulation, like the NES Classic and stuff like that, you compare the games, like the Wii U one's like super dark, it's super stretched out, it's not sharp, it's not running in 1080p, so the pixels aren't really sharp or anything like that. It kind of looks like this blurry, kind of washed out, stretched mess. So I hope that they use kind of the more modern emulation techniques they've been using. And there's been rumors for forever that the people who work on the NES and Classic, the SNES Classic, are also working on virtual console. Obviously, we know that it's not virtual console anymore, but some kind of classic games for the Nintendo Switch.
Yeah, no, exactly. So I'm actually seeing just random, but Jeremy Benz is saying he wants Bravely Default Switch.
Ooh, yes.
I want that, but I just want to stress that I believe that Project Octopath Traveler is being developed by the same guys. Or am I wrong on saying that?
That's right.
No, that's right. So, I feel like Project Octopath Traveler is kind of like a spiritual successor to the Bravely Default series. So if you love those games on 3DS, you should definitely, take a look at Project Octopath Traveler. It's not even Project, it's Octopath Traveler. Yeah, check out the demo. It's free, it's good. So, yeah, check it out. And yeah, we're only 1 month away from E3. That is totally true. Zach is back. So with that, right? I'm segueing now, right? That with this, increased sort of level of E3 sensitivity, we're getting more and more E3 news. And early this week, or last week at this point, there was a leak by Walmart of Canada. There was a list that came out from Walmart of Canada, and there was a whole slew of games that were there. Now I'm gonna pull up the list and the image in a moment, but from what you guys have seen, Brandon, what do you think of this Walmart leak that came out? What, like, the games that we saw?
Not gonna lie, I haven't seen much on it, so if you could
Yeah, I'm gonna pull it up for you.
kind of explain it. I didn't have time to go look at this one too much. There's a bunch of news today, so I just got kind of swamped.
Yeah, no, for sure. No, but it's there's a lot of games. A lot of them aren't necessarily expected to be on the Nintendo Switch, which is, you know, I guess I can't blame you too much with that. But there's still a lot of these games are. Some of them are expected. Some of them are kind of surprises. But it's interesting to me at least, and I'm gonna pull it up on the stream for you guys.
I looked at because it was a Walmart in Canada from what I was reading. I read an article earlier, and the PR person came out and said, you know, that it was a glitch in the system, it was a mistake, and that because these games leak doesn't mean that, you know, they talk to the developers or the publishers of the company, so they might not necessarily be E3, maybe just later 2018. So they tried to downplay it in that fashion.
Right. Mm-hmm. Yeah. I feel like there's a decent chance that that this list is kind of legitimate, but it
wasn't Rage 2 on there, and right. Then they came out and said that it was real.
Bethesda has not denied it. In fact, they started teasing it like crazy. So, you know, I think it holds a lot of water.
If I'm not mistaken, they came out and just outright said it was a thing. I saw somebody on Twitter say that. They could have been wrong. They could have been misunderstood. But from what I heard, they came out and just outright said yeah, we're making Rage 2. Like the cat's out of the bag kind of thing.
Yeah, they were upset about it.
Yeah, I would be too. It's kind of like that situation with Mario and Rabbids where it got leaked and everyone was like hating on the game before they even saw it. And the developers got all like, they got all upset because when they actually showed the game, everyone loved it. But like before the game came out, it's such a weird concept. So, like, it takes hype away from the announcement of it. So, I understand why they would be upset about it.
Yeah, I don't know if the image is kind of blurry for you guys. But yeah, it looks blurry from here. But there's a lot of games there. Most of these games are expected. But the fact that this list is coming up here, assuming it's all legitimate, right? It shows that I think a lot of these games are at least going to be set up for pre-order. And at least from the Nintendo perspective, I see two titles that stand out to me. Smash Bros. And Metroid Prime 4. I think Smash Bros. is pretty much entirely expected, right? Because Nintendo already confirmed it for 2018, right? We know it's the focus of E3. But the one that interests me a lot is Metroid Prime 4, the fact that they're showing it here. Now, if this is based on anything tangible, right, then they have heard that Metroid Prime 4 will be at E3, and maybe we'll actually see more than just another teaser this time. Maybe we'll get some straight-up gameplay. Maybe it'll actually be like a playable level. And maybe we'll get a date on this game, and maybe it's not that far away. I mean, that's, you know, a lot of ifs, right? But it does give me a little bit of hope that we'll be seeing a bit more of Metroid Prime than what I may have expected beforehand, which excites me.
Yeah. Honestly, I expect to see something of it no matter what. Even if it comes out, even if it comes out December next year, I think we'll see something of it, because I don't think they'd announce it and just be like, oh, it doesn't exist. Like, they just kind of pretend it doesn't exist the next E3. I think even if it comes out next year, they'll show something of it. Maybe not blow it out of the water, but they'll show something of Metroid Prime 4. Yeah. I'd have to imagine.
I feel like they would, but to play devil's advocate, when Breath of the Wild was revealed, I believe it was E3 2014.
That's true.
And then they skipped E3 2015. So there was no Zelda E3 2015, even though it was revealed the year beforehand. And we got more shown off in 2014 than what we got for Metroid Prime 4. So, and then we got the huge, blowout for Zelda 2016, and the game came out, a few months later, quote unquote, right? Before the next E3. So, that could be the case this time, although I don't think the development cycle for Metro is going to be nearly as large as Zelda's, right? And I also think Nintendo kind of has their stuff together now, like they're more prepared. It's all better planned out. So I don't think there's gonna be that delay, but it has happened.
Yeah, I mean, Zelda also, one of the big reasons they didn't show it again is because it got a delay. Like, they went through this major change in development after they showed it off, and So I think they just aren't quite ready to show anything yet, anything definitive more than they showed at, say the Game Awards, because I mean, just the quality wasn't there quite yet. So I think it's kind of a different situation, but it's definitely possible that they don't show anything. I just think it's more likely that they will show something of it during this E3.
Oh no, definitely.
I feel like it's gonna be one of those trailers where it's like not actual gameplay type of a style.
That could happen.
It's possible.
I hope it's gameplay.
I hope it's not, and I would bet it's not. I would bet it's not, mainly because I don't think Nintendo likes to go with the cutscenes too much. I mean, it depends on the franchise, right? But like, I think if they show off Metroid, it's gonna be gameplay. But I guess we'll see, right? Like, for example, Final Fantasy VII Remake, they're now sort of, apparently they're joking, but not joking too much, that it could take until 2023 for that game to come out. So, which I think is ridiculous. I don't know if you guys heard about that, but it's, development can be a pain sometimes, but I'm hopeful that development for Metroid is going swimmingly. And hopefully we'll find out this E3. I mean, you guys know I've predicted the game for this year, right? I know some people think I'm crazy for that, but I'm not gonna dwell on that, because if you want my proof, just watch my videos. My channel page. I talk about all the details about Metroid. So if you want my opinion on it, just check it out there. But regardless, hopefully we'll see it, and yeah. So
yeah, we gotta see it. I think so.
Yeah. I saw in the chat actually someone bring up that there's no Yoshi on the list, and true. There's no Yoshi, there's no Fire Emblem, which we already know are confirmed for 2018. So this doesn't show everything. It just shows some things. Even if assuming it is all true, it's just some of it. It's not all of it.
Right.
So yeah, I don't think this is like a spoiler for everything that's gonna be at E3 now.
Yeah.
Yeah. So is there anything else we want to say to this like Walmart E3 leak before we move on?
I'm good.
Cool. All right. Let me see. Hey, Blockstar dude. No Filter saying he's looking forward to a cinematic trailer. No, I want gameplay. But we'll see what happens. I mean, I'll still, whatever it is, I'll still love it. But
I'll take it either way.
For sure. Absolutely. So let's talk a little bit.
They've done a pure cinematic trailer forever. Just a quick note before we move on. I don't think they've done a cinematic trailer for like any of their games. Like
Other M.
Yeah, I mean, like, I'm just saying, like, in a long time. Like, it's been a while.
Not their bag.
Yeah, they're not Sony.
No, I mean, Sony. I mean, that trailer for Final Fantasy VII Remake was kind of gameplay, right? And that game, but apparently they completely ditched the whole engine and they're starting from scratch again. So, yeah, but Nintendo's not Sony, so we don't have to worry too much. I think, but yeah. But speaking of Sony, because that's what we're talking about next, we're going to talk a little bit about Sony's E3 plans. Now, this is mostly a Nintendo channel, but I do think Sony makes some cool stuff, and what they do does affect Nintendo. So we're going to talk about it for a bit. So Sony kind of announced their E3 plans, right? And it's not a Sony Direct, but it's basically, from what I heard, it's basically be like they're going to have a focus on 4 games. They're going to have a deep dive into 4 different games, and they might have a little bit on some other stuff, but that's the focus. And I'm trying to remember all the names of the games off the top of my head. I'm going to have it right here. Death Stranding, that game that's being made by Kojima, right? Ghost Tsushima, which I didn't know too much about, but it could be pretty interesting. Marvel Spider-Man, which I'm sure a lot of you have heard about. That's like a big, hyped-up game from Sony. And then The Last of Us Part 2. So I guess this is like Sony's like big 4, right? Yeah. And they're going to have a focus on all 4 of these games at this E3, but it doesn't look like they're going to be showing off any hardware. It doesn't look like they're going to, have anything else aside from these 4 games. And I mean, I'm sure they're going to have some sizzle reels, right? But this is their focus, these 4 games. So from that, what do you guys think of this?
I personally think that, so the deep dive, and I hate to bring Nintendo up, but I think it's going to be how Nintendo set up the Treehouse. Nintendo brought the Treehouse, I guess, 5 years ago, and everybody was laughing at them because they broke the mold of having a big demo. But I bet these deep dives, and I'll bet my last paycheck on it, that they're going to have the producers that'll be playing the game, talking about how it was developed, talking about what you can do in the game. And they'll focus on those 4 games because I think the gameplay is what counts.
Yeah, no, for sure. And it could be a great idea. Like Nintendo did it first, and it was amazing. I remember the Treehouse whole when they said that Zelda was going to be the only game they were going to have at E3 and E3 2016. Yep. I thought that it was like, oh, there's no way this can be good.
Exactly.
And it was one of my favorite E3s ever. So yeah, no, I think Sony has seen the success Nintendo has done, like you said, Mars, and they're riding that train because they've seen how successful it is.
Right. I mean, the Treehouse, in my opinion, is like the best thing Nintendo's come up with, like for E3 for like ever. I love the Treehouse. I love how kind of goofy and relaxed they are. They're just like going in there and they're just playing some games for fun because that's what games are all about. They just go in there, you know, they have some interviews with the developers occasionally. They show off, you know, cool features of the game. They don't spoil anything, but they give you a good idea of, you know, if you're going to like the game, how, you know, who's it for, who's it catered to, all this good stuff. And I love it. I mean, it was like my dream when they showed off, like, it was all Zelda E3. Zelda's my favorite franchise of all time. So it was just like 8 hours of just Zelda. It was amazing. So I usually watch the Treehouse, you know, beginning to end, and just to see. And they have some surprise reveals during the Treehouse. So I could see Sony doing some stuff where they don't only talk about these 4 games.
Yeah,
they might have some minor reveals or something during that as well. So I could see it working out very well for them. And it's much more, in my opinion, it's much more interesting than the kind of just they get on the stage and then they talk for a million years and they show you like they sort of use a cinematic trailer and they talk without showing you any more gameplay or anything. Just like, just stop talking and show me the game, please.
Actually, that is gonna be kind of a fresh breath of air, like, right? Because they normally do just a lot of cutscenes, and we don't always see that much gameplay. It does seem like this time we're gonna be seeing a lot of gameplay, and that is something Nintendo usually does. Which is, I'm glad that, you know, like you said, Mars is sort of taking, you know, they're taking note of what Nintendo's done, and they're following suit. And I think it's gonna be a more enjoyable conference for that. And also, Brandon, you brought up how they could bring up other games. Like last year, Nintendo brought up Metroid Samus Returns during their Treehouse. So maybe they could bring up other games during their deep dive or in between one of them. That I could see that happening.
Yeah.
Yeah. So let's see what people are saying in the chat. Unless there's anything else you guys want to add to what we're seeing from Sony right now. I'm Vegeta-san. What's up, man? Jeremy. They're both questioning PS5. I don't think we're going to see a PS5 this year. Yeah.
PS4 Pro still good, you know?
Right. Yeah, I mean, they're still sort of marketing that. So I think I just wouldn't make sense. Maybe next year, right? I could see maybe it happening. I hope not, but I mean, it could be next year. Yeah. So
I would personally like a PS5, but I understand it makes no business sense.
Yeah.
It makes absolutely no business sense for them to release a PS5 at this time.
Yeah, I don't think so. Yeah, it's kind of but yeah. Oh, what's up, Kevin Rivera? But yeah, is there anything else we want to add to this sort of Sony E3 thing before we move on to the Nintendo stuff on this Nintendo podcast?
Right. I guess the only thing I would like to say is, like, I am interested to see these games because I don't really know much about them other than Spider-Man, and I'm, you know, I have access to a PS4 recently now. So I'm interested to see if I'll enjoy these games. But I just hope they show more of Spider-Man, because I feel like they've shown it so many E3s, but they've shown kind of the same stuff over and over again. We don't actually know all that much about it. It's weird. They've shown it over and over, but we don't actually know all that much.
And the same could be said for Death Stranding as well. We don't know much about that either.
It's like Sony's MO is to show you the games over and over again, but not actually tell you anything about them.
It's kind of good marketing in a way. In a way, because you get people hyped up and you leave people's imaginations to run, right? Which I think Nintendo's actually kind of doing as well, because like I believe that a lot of these leaks or teases are at least some of it is planned, right? Because when Nintendo doesn't say anything, people get crazy about it, right? And like hype builds up. Like, and we'll get to some of it in a bit, but yeah, actually, we could talk about it now. Are we ready to move on?
Yeah.
Yeah, so one of these teases I'm sort of referencing is this Splatoon 2 thing. So I forget where, so forgive me, but there's Splatoon 2. There's supposedly there's gonna be like an earth-shattering, mind-blowing teaser or like a announcement for Splatoon that's gonna come out a few days before E3. And then a Nintendo rep came out and said, no, that this is a baseless rumor. But then again, from another magazine, Koro, which is 100% legitimate. Like if they say it, it's real. Like that there is going to be something coming out, some sort of announcements for Splatoon. I believe they said Splatoon 2 actually from Koro, and yeah, I don't know what that means. It could mean a lot of things, but Mars, I know you're really big on Splatoon.
Yeah.
So what are your thoughts on this teaser? What do you think is happening?
Here's my thing about it is, it said the word shock. That word shock. To me, the game is already a lot. It's enough. There's a lot to do. There's the story, another story. The multiplayer is fine. What could they possibly add that would shock you? That would warrant a article and this, that, and the third. But so people say what, battle royale, maybe an anime, or maybe a movie. I mean to be shocked, that something that would shock you, because outside of that you would expect it, a new mode or a new gun. That's nothing. So it would have to be something major,
right? And we already got this. We already know that they're going to be in Smash Brothers, right? So that cat's already out of the bag. So yeah, I don't know. I mean, would Battle Royale even be a shocking? Would you qualify as shocking news?
Well, yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like, especially nowadays, like I wouldn't. I was okay. I saw that coming. Like, I wouldn't be shocked. So I can't even wrap my head about what would it be. What could they possibly add to shock me or the average Splatoon player?
I'd be shocked if they did Battle Royale, like a 100 people mode, just because this is so much. How would you do that with different colors? You have to like 100 different shades of ink. Like, how would that work? Would it be like a smaller amount of people? Would it be only 50v50 or 25v25 v25 v25 or something? I don't know how that would work, because there's not that many colors.
That's a good point. Well, I mean, they would have to be a team thing, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Yeah,
and it could be smaller scale. It doesn't have to be as big.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Yeah, because I was trying to plan it out in my mind too. Like, what would a battle royale situation be? It would have to be more than 4 people. It had to be more than 4 and 4. Mm-hmm. But maybe I guess 10, 15, 15. But they got enough weapons to do it. But then how the pain is, you never know your true health in Splatoon. You know, you don't have a health bar, but you know, there are a couple of things I guess they would have to work around.
Yeah, but also they want to stick to 60 frames per second, right? So.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, to what you're saying, right? Like it may not, if they were to do it. If gut feeling, I'm gonna say no, right? Because Nintendo likes being different, and Battle Royale is like super mainstream. Like that's as mainstream as it gets. So I feel like just off that alone, I don't think it's likely that's the direction they're gonna go in. I would enjoy the mode. I think it'd be a great mode if they were to do it. But if I think about it, it's mainstream, right? It would be really hard to create like an open, like a large scale sort of open sandbox world Splatoon map and still keep it at 60 frames per second and have, if not 100, even 50, 40 people in a single game, right? We only have 8 right now. So I don't think it's likely.
Yeah, and I mean, why would they announce that a couple days before E3? Yeah. I feel like this might be something that's outside of the realm of the actual game. Like Mars, you were mentioning a anime or something, like a movie. I think that could be really, really cool. Honestly, Nintendo needs to get into
great marketing too.
They had they had a Smash anime or like a Kid Icarus anime or a Zelda anime. Those would all be amazing. A Metroid anime could even be good. Like, they have so many good games that could make amazing animes.
And not all of them have to be
Splatoon
animes.
Would be the first.
I think a Splatoon 2 anime makes a lot of sense, and actually consider, like, fan art and, like, fan fictions and comics. There's just so many that fans have made, right? And considering that on Splatoon 1 they had so many drawings, right? Like, and that sort of carried over into creating a lot of fan fictions and fan art. So to have like an anime sort of thing that kind of like carries that sort of like spirit would be really interesting. There's a lot of potential for that. Mars, what do you think about that idea?
I like it. I personally think that's what it has to be, and Nintendo has a great opportunity here because they do video games, but they also try to make money in other ways. So that's another pocket of revenue for them. It's got a good fan base, right? Especially for a new IP, the fan base is great. People follow it like crazy. It's money on the table.
Yeah, and it could be even used as a way to build the fan base even more, right? Especially since Splatoon's going to go through a bit of a transition here because online is going to cost money. And even though it's cheap, they are going to lose some fans, right? Some players when they transition to Nintendo Online. And maybe one way to sort of continue that is to, you know, have a whole marketing plan for Splatoon, and creating a whole Splatoon anime is a hell of a way to sort of market the games. And like you said, the anime itself or whatever it is, if it's a movie or something like that, would make money on its own, but it would also boost the, you know, the franchise as well. Yeah.
Look at the just look at what Pokemon was able to do with their whole situation. They can really get Splatoon like that.
Oh my god. Like Pokemon has like, is it 3 or 4 pillars? Because they have the movies, they have the anime, they have the trading card game, and then they have the mainline video game, and then they have all the spin-offs, right? And they have the toy line. A huge, like, there's not just one toy line, hundreds of toy lines, right? And collectibles, right? And then there's stickers and like, it's insane the amount of Pokemon products that are out there. And they all sort of like boost each other, you know what I mean? Because like, oh, what's this cool sticker? Oh, this is cool stickers in this cartoon. Oh, this cartoon has a card game. Oh, wait, it's all based off of a video game? Like, it all kind of, you know, propels each other. And, I mean, yeah, an anime could be, that could be the beginning of more. I mean, there's already probably Splatoon cards somewhere.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So, so is that what we're going with here? That this is probably like an anime or some sort of TV series, or is there another idea that makes sense?
I'm gonna go with Brandon. I think it's outside of the game. If it's anything, and that could be a shocker, you know, because everybody's gonna be looking to the game. I mean, we just got 3.0, and we're getting Octo. Right. Yeah. I mean, that's not a lot of room in between that, so I think it'll have to be something outside the game. True.
Another, I guess, possibility is that they say shock, but maybe it's not really that shocking, right?
Yeah.
Like maybe
it got lost in translation. You're right.
Yeah. I do like the idea that they use the word shock on purpose to maybe insinuate something, right? Like there was, I mean, what's the name of the fish that has like electricity?
Yeah. The Zapfish.
The Zapfish, like maybe there's some sort of tie-in with that, you know, the great Zapfish and shocking you, maybe, but or maybe that could be, maybe that's a story, maybe it's a Splatoon story based off how the great Zapfish shocked the world, and now they have to work together to restore light, and that's kind of like the plot or something. I don't know.
That'd be weird. Didn't there be like 3 stories in Splatoon 2?
Well, I mean it as an anime, though.
Oh.
Yeah, I just meant like the idea for the plot. But I mean, yeah, I have no idea. It could be. There's so much it could be. But I kind of agree with you guys.
Going through tournaments and stuff. Could be like a big tournament scene or something.
Yeah, but like I said, I do agree that it seems to me that it's outside of the game. But hey, maybe it isn't. Maybe it's some sort of cool mode. I guess we'll find out a few days before E3, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Let's see what you guys think in the chat, though. So Kevin's saying they already have a Splatoon manga in serialization, so they could just have an anime adaptation, right? He said he's seen some volumes at Barnes & Noble. That's interesting. Savis is asking, do you think the Splatoon series will reach Pokemon levels?
The thing about that is, I'm looking at just the character design. The Pokemon characters, you know, I think the average person can draw those. And it's kind of the same with Splatoon, so it gets people involved. The brand can be grown in the same way that it was. The characters are likable, you know, they're cute and all that. So it plays into it really well.
Yeah, that's an interesting point, and I think it makes a lot of sense. The thing is that Pokemon's been around for years, right? And it's grown. But also, Pokemon came at a time when there wasn't as much competition. True. You know? And it was able to it got an incredible foothold because of that. And then another point to sort of layer on top of that is that Pokemon was mobile, which gives me another idea, actually. So what if this shocking news isn't an anime or something like that? What if it's like a Splatoon 3DS or a Splatoon mobile game, right?
I would take that.
Burn it.
I wouldn't want 3DS, but a mobile game. There could be something there. I think.
Mobile, maybe. I
But
just have no.
I don't know if it'll be about shooting. They might like spin it into something else,
Right.
like Splatoon, something else, like just the characters involved, maybe along those lines.
Yeah.
Yeah, I just don't want like a Splatoon 2 port to the 3DS. Like, why would you want that? I don't understand the point of that. It's like, yay, I get to play Splatoon 2 that's 1080p, 60 frames per second on my Nintendo Switch at 240p with way worse graphics on the console. Nobody seems to care about all that much anymore. And, like, no.
Yeah. So, yeah, I mean...
without dual sticks either, so that makes it a little harder.
No, I don't think it should be a shooter either. Well, unless it's like an on-rail, I don't know. There's different ways they can do it. I mean, I think you have to definitely take advantage of the ink, right? Because that's kind of like the whole motif of Splatoon. So something ink-related, maybe cleaning or squirting. Or maybe it could be more about being fresh, and it could be more about collecting clothes and being fashionable. Like maybe it's Splatoon fashion designer or something. Although I think there's probably already an Animal Crossing game of that. I don't know. Well, there's Animal Crossing Happy Home Designer or something.
Yeah, it's not the same.
Yeah, so...
that's more homes, those clothes.
Yeah.
Gear.
I don't know. So is there... just final guesses before we move on. Mars, do you have a final guess? Like your last... You just one... What do you think?
I'm gonna go anime.
Okay.
I'm gonna stick with that one.
Sticking with that too. Sticking with anime as well.
Okay. I think that's a great one. I could have easily swayed in that direction, but because I'm a contrarian, I'm just gonna say it's some sort of thing where Splatoon is gonna become more mobile. Maybe they have some sort of smartphone app where it's a toy line that sort of connects with your phones, or something that's gonna... It's something that people aren't gonna expect. It's gonna be more, maybe kind of more akin to a toy line that connects with your game in some way, or mobile. So yeah, even though you guys are probably, I don't know, just being a contrarian here, but yeah. So let's move on. All right, so there's actually a lot of news this week, and there's no way I feel like we could have covered it all in one podcast unless we went on for hours. But I don't want to do that. So I just decided to create a topic where it's just about third-party speculation, because we heard about Bandai Namco bringing out some big games. Capcom bring out some big games. Konami, talk a little bit about Bloodstained and this 8-bit version of it, which looks really cool, right? Bethesda's now teasing a whole bunch of stuff as well, like Rage 2, and they've been saying this could be their biggest E3 yet, or one of their biggest E3s ever. So there's a lot of potential for a lot of great third-party games, some of which could be coming to Nintendo Switch. So then, I kind of just want to create, I guess, a form of discussion about third-party games we could be seeing for Nintendo, Switch, right, at this year's E3. So off the top of your heads, is there anything you're sort of hoping for right off the bat? Brandon, if you go first if you want.
It's just so many things here.
Yeah.
I feel like if I could go for an easy one, just pick 4, I guess. Just go for something that's eventually coming.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I meant third-party stuff though, like just straight up third-party speculation.
Okay, third-party. Gotcha.
Yeah.
Sorry. I don't know. I'm not a huge person to play third-party on, because I have a PC, so I don't play third-party too much. So I'm trying to think of something I'd like to have on the go.
Nintendo fanboy. Well, I mean, I think a lot of people have talked about it, right? And I think Fortnite is something that a lot of people have been bringing up a lot. I mean, we literally were just talking about Battle Royale and Splatoon, right? So, I'd be okay with Fortnite on Switch. I think it's kind of one of those things that should be on the Switch. Like, it's on mobile, it's on everything else. So, I mean, I think that's a high likelihood of being announced.
I think it seems like Bethesda and Nintendo has been having a great relationship. So if anything can come out through them, like if Rage 2, if that's possible, I would like to see that, just to see the relationship grow for future games.
No, I totally agree with you. And in fact, I would go as far as saying that I think Rage 2 might be the first day and date release with Nintendo. Meaning, for those that don't know, day and date means that the game will come out at the same time, same day, as the competition. So Rage 2 is going to be a multi-platform game, right? It's going to come out on Xbox, PlayStation, PC. I believe the Nintendo Switch version will also be announced. It'll be coming out at the same time as those.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. They've said it. There have been articles saying where they want to eventually have some day-and-date games. And I think we could be, maybe this E3 will finally see an announcement for that. They are teasing Rage 2, like you said, Mars. So, yeah, I'm kind of with you there. I think that's what's going to happen.
Right. Overwatch is a good one that could come to the Switch.
Yes. That is also kind of something that would fit pretty well, right? I think... I know it's not the same as Fortnite, but they both have like an animated style. They're both shooting games, right? So it's kind of like, for me, in my head at least, they're similar. So I'm not saying that either one's either related to each other. It's just kind of like, I feel like we definitely should get at least one of them. I know they're separate entities altogether, but you know, I know third parties are like, oh, you know, if this company brings their game onto the board, maybe we shouldn't invest in that. You know, so a lot of third parties are very careful about, you know, bringing their games onto Switch because they don't want to have any failed like business projects.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You go first, Mars.
Go on.
Okay. It's funny you bring up Overwatch. I remember when the Switch was first announced, and that's kind of when Overwatch was still the thing. And you know, they were asking them, can Overwatch come to the Switch? Can Overwatch come? And they were like, yeah, we can bring it, but their problem is that they have a Blizzard, which is a problem they'll probably can get over quickly. But they have a server for Xbox, they have a server for PlayStation, then they have the server for PC. So they were worried about, can we maintain a server for Nintendo Switch too? But if they found out a way around that, you know, they'll bring Overwatch.
Yeah,
right.
And hopefully they did do that. Maybe there's some sort of time with Nintendo's online service as well, right? Maybe that has something to do with it, and that could be why we haven't heard anything yet. But once Nintendo's online services, hits the ground, hopefully hits the ground running, then we'll hear more games that are more online centric being announced for Switch, like Fortnite, like Overwatch, and that could be really cool. Another option is Borderlands 3. Might be, that's something I've heard brought up a lot. That could be announced as well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, my thing with third parties is just I have this pretty nice PC rig that I have on, the same desk where I play my PlayStation 4 and my Nintendo Switch. So I'm not really inclined to get third-party games on my Nintendo Switch when I can get them so cheap and they'll look better and run better on my PC. So I'm kind of interested to see games that maybe I want to take on the go, games that are more inclined to take on the go, games that maybe are, graphically the same on the Nintendo Switch versus other consoles, or exclusive games, because I obviously have to get them on the Switch. Like, that's what interested me. Something that maybe takes advantage of something Switch does, like HD Rumble perhaps, or motion controls, or something that benefits the Switch that makes me want to get it. Some gameplay thing that I can do on the Switch that I can't do on my PC, because if it's the same game, I'm just going to get it on my PC because it's going to look a lot better.
Well, to your point, actually, we already know that Doom, has gyro controls, right? And I believe Wolfenstein 2 is going to have gyro controls. And I don't know if it has HD Rumble, so I haven't heard about that. But what if, for example, Rage 2 has gyro aiming and HD Rumble, right? And that's kind of like, even though the graphics are worse, even though it's going to be at 30 frames per second, that's kind of how they say, hey, look, even though this version is 720p 30 frames per second, while the others are 1080 to 4K 60, you get gyro aiming and HD Rumble, and that's sort of the trade-off on top of portability.
Yeah.
I'm okay with that. I'd be like, that's fine with me, So that's a possibility. Yeah.
Yeah. And I think there's room for exclusive games, exclusive third-party games that use those features to their max. Maybe they find new creative ways to use HD Rumble and motion controls together to make something really cool, something experience you can't find on other systems.
Yes. So then, actually, what I was thinking is that, one, we already know we got a Monster Hunter announcement this week for Switch. Finally, the Monster Hunter that came out in Japan is finally going to be localized and coming to North America. Finally. Right? A little late, but it is finally coming. And that's kind of, that's kind of an exclusive, right? Even though it's sort of like a port of the 3DS version. Yeah. I mean, I don't think it takes advantage of HD Rumble or anything like that. So there's that. But maybe Capcom has something else in the works as well, right? Like they said, they have multiple projects. Maybe they have something else that they could be doing. I mean, we know Okami HD is coming. have we heard if Okami HD on Switch if it takes advantage of any features?
We do know it has for like drawing and stuff. You can use motion controls, and if you have it on undocked, you can use the touchscreen for the different drawing moves and things you can do. So.
Okay. I guess I'm trying to think of an exclusive though, like you said though, like something that's only coming out on Nintendo Switch, like a new exclusive.
Yeah, because that's what's gonna interest me the most.
Yeah, Mars, do you have any ideas?
Well, nah, but I will say this. I know. So Brandon has the PC rig. I have one too, but I think I go in the opposite direction. I like to concentrate my games on one console if possible. So like if those exclusives do come, you know, I'm more inclined to get it on the Switch because I don't know. It's just something about me. I just like to have it all in one situation. But I hope Capcom will kind of do what they did when they worked with the 3DS 3DS got a good amount of exclusives that were from Capcom. So maybe all right, Capcom said we're done with the 3DS. Now let's do that for the Switch, and then whatever game it is, that's what it is.
Actually, that's an interesting point. Like for example, Resident Evil Revelations, arguably excluding Resident Evil 7, right, was the best Resident Evil for years. Right, and that was for a while a 3DS exclusive. So what if we get another Resident Evil game that maybe is kind of more of the Revelations line, but developed ground up for the Switch? That'd be awesome. And I could see that definitely having like gyro aiming and HD rumble. I mean, Revelations 2 I think has that already. So at least the gyro aiming, right? So I could see that happening, and that I think that kind of be sort of in line with what you're talking about, Brandon, but having an exclusive that takes advantage of the Switch features.
Yeah, I think HD Rumble is kind of the feature that third parties haven't really got on board with, which is a shame because I think it's one of the coolest things on the Nintendo Switch. When you play Mario Odyssey, you get that HD Rumble, and you're just like, this feels really, really cool, really, really unique. So I hope more third parties get in on that.
Yeah,
100% agree.
So, I think I just saw Will come in. Will, are you there?
Nope.
No, Will's not there. Oh.
I can confirm that I am dead. So.
Oh, okay.
Rest in peace. Okay.
Oh. How you doing, buddy?
I'm dead.
Oh, okay. Well,
he's dead.
Right. Well, from the other world, thanks for being on that side. Let us know how it is later on. But in case you haven't met Mars yet, Mars, this is Will, Mars.
Nice to meet you, Will.
Yeah. So we were actually talking about some third-party stuff that we may see during E3. I kind of bunched in all like the third-party news we got throughout the week, right? Like things that we might be hearing from Bethesda, Capcom, Bandai Namco, and we were just kind of talking about maybe what like Brandon was sort of suggesting maybe we could get like an actual Switch exclusive that takes advantage of the Switch, and I kind of suggested well Mars sort of pointed me in that direction, but I was like, oh, what if we get like a Resident Evil sort of thing if Capcom moves over all their 3DS products over to the Switch, like Mars was saying. Yeah.
So you're talking about Capcom and Bandai Namco, right?
Them, or any other third parties in general. Like we're just speculating about third party games in general right now. Yeah. Yeah.
I don't know. I think we're gonna get some pretty good third party. Maybe we're gonna get yearly Call of Duty. I don't know.
About time. I think. Yeah. I mean, there is that rumor that this year there's gonna be we're gonna get like sort of Call of Duty on Switch that'll be just a battle royale mode, and which I'm not sure how I feel about that. I mean, I literally started getting into Fortnite yesterday night. I played it for like a couple hours. I played it on mobile beforehand. I thought it was whatever, but I played it on my PS4 last night. I was like, oh, this is addicting. But like that's free. So, I have a hard time believing that Activision would release a Battle Royale Call of Duty on Switch for free.
Yeah. To talk about, to kind of say something on that real quick, apparently there's a rumor going around that GameStop is displaying Nintendo Switch display cases for Black Ops 4, so we could see that on the Nintendo Switch this year.
Maybe it's a full version after all, and it's just rumors and we shouldn't have believed it.
Yeah. I don't know.
It's just it hasn't been announced for it yet.
Right. It's
Yeah.
weird. Black Ops 4 is just an interesting situation all around.
Yeah. Mars, what are your thoughts on, Black Ops 4 coming to Switch or Battle Royale mode? Just in general, what do you think of Call of Duty on Switch?
I think they have to bring the whole game. To only bring the battle royale will be disrespectful to Nintendo. Um, but I hope it does come. I think the last one I remember is on the Wii U when that was Black Ops 2, if I remember correctly. So that'll be come back with Black Ops 4 on the Switch, and I think that'll be a good look.
Yeah, I think on the Wii U we got 2 Call of Duties. I remember Black Ops.
Yeah.
And I think after we got a Call of Duty Ghosts, but they didn't market it
Yeah.
at all.
I think we got one Black Ops 1, Black Ops 2 Ghosts. So
Yeah.
3.
Okay.
And I just want to make it clear, I think the rumors should be dispelled, oh, it can't run it, or, that's not. I don't know if that's a good excuse if it doesn't come. I think it can. I think it can run it, or it can be downgraded a bit, but it has to come.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, when I look at Call of Duty now, it doesn't look that different to me from how it looked back on Wii U in 2012. It doesn't look that different to me. So even if you have to scale it down to the point where I guess the textures are lower res or whatever, yeah, I totally think it can run. I'm also with you there. I don't think there's a lot of people say, oh, the Switch can't run this, the Switch can't run that. In this day and age, tablets are running basically the same games that high-end PCs are. They're just scaled down dramatically. The Switch is, maybe in that closer to that tablet range, but it can still run things. It's just scaled down. So yeah, I'm in agreement with you 100%.
Yeah. My only thing about is the last Call of Duty game. I definitely think it's possible. I'm just wondering if the creators want to, because they didn't scale it down to the PS4 and Xbox One that well. It was just above 720p even on the Xbox One with a not very stable frame rate. So I definitely think it's possible, and I think developers should do it. I'm just wondering if they're getting kind of lazy and they're not really up to that these days, because they're not really even optimizing it for the current platforms that well.
Yeah, I agree with you. You look, that's why I like what Bethesda has gone in there and done it. They've taken that time with those games, and then you look at Doom, they've gotten better. Than Wolfenstein, they say it's going to be better because what they've done with Doom, now they know more. So it's on the developers. You can't blame Nintendo. I mean, the hardware can be worked with.
Right.
Absolutely.
Wolfenstein 2 looks beautiful on the Nintendo Switch.
It looked great. I thought it looked great until I saw the PS4 Pro comparison.
Yeah.
And then I'm like, okay, it's a little blurry, but when you don't compare it to a 4K console, it looks fine enough.
Yeah.
I compared it to the Xbox One version. It's pretty damn close.
Yeah, I mean that's a good point. Yeah, and I'm fine with that. I mean, it's a portable system, right? It has comparable graphics to PS4 and Xbox One, but it's also portable, which is more than good enough for me, right? And it plays Nintendo games, so yeah, pretty happy with that. Yeah, but are we done with some third-party speculation, or is there any sort of last guesses you guys want to put up before we move on?
I'm good.
I'm good, man.
Good, because I think the last 2 topics are the most interesting ones, so let's jump in. All right, so what we're going to talk about now is Pokemon, right? So Emily Rogers, she, if you guys don't know, she has a history of leaking or reporting on a lot of stuff, and historically speaking, she's been right about most of it. Not all of it, most of it. So then, for example, she talked about, Mario Raving Rabbit, the Mario Rabbids Kingdom battle. She talked about the Switch itself, ARMS, those are good examples of games she's gotten right. So, when she's saying something, a lot of people pay attention to that. And she's saying that Pokemon Switch will be coming out this year, and that it's an RPG with 2 versions, which is basically like every mainline Pokemon game, and that it will be revealed really soon. Whatever really soon means, it's gonna be really soon. So then she also wanted to specify that's what she said, but that she was also saying that she wasn't specifying whether it was a Gen 8, a remake, or a standalone mainline game. She wasn't gonna specify that, right? But everything else I said is what she said. So then, Mars, when you hear about this, What are your thoughts? Do you think we're gonna finally get a Pokemon Switch reveal this week, or would we have to wait till E3, or is it just completely wrong? What do you think?
Nah, I'm gonna give her credit on this one. I think she's right. Especially last year, we just got, it's in development. Now, I'm not saying what we're gonna get, but we're gonna get more. Two versions. That sounds good. But I'm rolling with Emily on this one, even though she's been wrong, but she's been right where it matters, in my opinion.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I'm with you there. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, for me, like, it's just, I believe her. I believe her information is true. Maybe sometimes she'll get information, and then because it's information of something that's still, behind closed doors, plans change right before they officially announce it. But I think her information comes from a real place. So, yeah, when she says something, I pay attention. But, I think, I do believe that Pokemon Switch is probably coming out this year, and, I mean, we're really close to the time when it should be announced. Like, this month has to be the time. I think it's possible at this point that they do show it off at E3, but heck, there are people saying it's going to be revealed this week. But then again, there have been multiple weeks already where people said, hey, it's going to be revealed this week too. So, I'm not going to jump on that bandwagon. I'm gonna be cautiously optimistic, and I expect it to be shown off within a month from now. And I do think it's a good chance it's coming out this year.
Yeah, I think, and you look at the timeline, like you take what Emily says, and then you match it with the timeline. So last E3, you got the little announcement, and then this is about the time we should get more information on it at E3. It makes sense, and then, they have to have a big fall game for to sell during their holiday. So if it's not going to be Metroid, it's got to be Pokemon.
Yeah, I think especially if we assume Smash Brothers is coming out this September with Nintendo's online service, I think they need to have at least one thing come out in November or October. Now it could be Fire Emblem, but I have a feeling that they're gonna have something a little bit more. I don't want to say Fire Emblem isn't hype inducing, but I think they need to have something else as well. And Pokemon could fit that bill for sure. I mean, Pokemon comes out every November. I have to double check, but basically last several years it's been Pokemon in November every time. And
that's why I have to go with her on that, just because the timeline is too perfect. I mean, November, you have to say something pretty soon to let that hype build up to November. You can't say, something in, I guess, August or September.
Yeah. But, Brandon, what are your thoughts on this?
I mean, I've been saying it for a while. It feels like this is the time. I said it last month. I was like, it's either going to be, this month or next month if they're going to show something. I think they'll definitely show something before E3. E3 might be where they do the big blowout, but I think we'll see, at least concept art or the starters or, if it's going to be Gen 8 or a remake or something. We'll learn about that before E3, I think, for sure. And it's just about Pokemon Company works. They're not really one to let other people do their announcements for them.
Yeah, to that point, I kind of agree with you. If I had to put my money on something, I'd say that we get a direct sometime before E3, whether it's this week, the next week, or the week right before E3. They'll show it off on their own terms, like you said, and then it'll be more of a blowout at E3. I think that makes the most sense. That's what I would bank my money on, if anything. But, it's... We don't know. It's like I was talking about earlier, how Nintendo and they have, I feel like intentionally they sort of, hold back information or sometimes have some leaks or rumors come out, right, that sort of just get us going crazy, right? So I feel like, everyone, they understand that when they don't talk about it, they just get us to talk about it more, which ultimately just kind of raises more awareness and makes us rabid for more information, and it builds up the hype. So yeah, it's kind of crazy, but Will, you're there, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So what do you think of all this rumor craze? Are you done with it? Do you think it's coming? What are your thoughts on this?
Oh yeah, I've been done with it. I've been completely done with it for a while. And the thing is, it's probably gonna get worse. But I do believe what Emily Rogers says. Honestly, it doesn't seem too far-fetched either, though. So it's not like I'm gonna, oh yeah, well, she said it, and if it comes true, she's the prophet. It's like, yeah, I mean, it's kind of safe to assume some of this stuff.
Right. It's her information isn't groundbreaking. Oh, Pokemon's gonna have two versions. Okay, yeah. Every Pokemon has two versions, right? It's an RPG. Yeah, every mainline Pokemon's an RPG. Like, yeah, none of that is groundbreaking. Totally true. And by saying really soon, that could mean tomorrow or any of the next 30 days, right? Like, so yeah, it's not a crazy prediction either. You're absolutely right. It could be a guess, but I don't think it's a guess. I just think it's super vague on purpose. But to sort of take this in a more crazy direction, there were some crazier rumors that came out, right? And basically, some of the rumors that have been coming out is that, yes, they're still saying that the game's going to be set in Kanto, but the game's going to be set a few hundred years into the future. So this Pokemon world, this Kanto world, is kind of more like a dystopian sort of society, right? Like Pallet Town, the original town, is underwater, and like it's almost kind of like what they did with Breath of the Wild, where they set Hyrule way into the future, where it's all in ruins. Like, it could be something along those lines. That's what some of the rumors are pointing towards. Obviously, it's just a rumor. Take it with tons of grains of salt, right? It's a rumor, right? And this is one of those, like, super imaginative rumors, right? It's not like, oh, this just like the Emily Rogers thing. So I wouldn't bet my money on this, but it does sound really cool. So, like, Brandon, you know, what do you think about, like, a dystopian Pokemon world set in the future?
Yeah, I think it'd be really interesting. Personally, you know, as somebody who's only played Pokemon Moon, like, anything that they come with is going to be, like, completely new to me. But, yeah, for people who've played Kanto, I've heard the problem that people are like, we've been to Kanto so many times. I don't want to go to Kanto. Like, not again. And just, like, but if they do this in this way where it's like so far in the future, maybe I'll go back and play the original Pokemon just to see how it was, you know, in preparation for this one, so I can see just how much has changed and get that more background into the lore of it all. Because I think, you know, if I was a Pokemon fan who had played the original and, you know, I knew Kanto, I think I'd find that super, super cool. Like, I would love that. And just I can't imagine there would be anything less than tons and tons of lore and different, you know, mentions of the original and how it's changed. Like, for a avid somebody who's a really big Pokemon fan, like, I'd imagine that they'd really, really enjoy that. So I maybe I'll go back, if this is true, maybe I'll go back and play the original so I can get in on all that lore and stuff.
Yeah. Mars, so, like, you know, considering this, it could be like a dystopian world. I don't know how big you are on Pokemon, but how do you feel about this? Are you big on Pokemon? I guess that's the first question.
I played Pokemon. I'm actually happy. I want that to be true. Looks like how Brandon was saying. You know, Kanto's enough, but you want to go into a new direction, and I'm more excited about going into the future. Because, like you said, you can look back for old relics like that. I found myself doing that with Breath of the Wild. You know how they have Long Ranch and all that stuff in there. So I think it's a good look for them to do that if it is true.
Yeah, no, and the thing is, like, I think it would be a huge move. Like, this is if it's true, right? Like, this would be, I think, one of the boldest moves that Game Freak has done with Pokemon. So, bearing that in mind, Will, like, you know, like, I think it's bold, but Will, what do you think if they were to actually do this? Create, like, a dystopian world, like a bit more of a darker atmosphere for Pokemon. Do you think that would be a very bold move for Game Freak, and maybe could say things about how this game will be different from the previous games? Like, what do you think about that?
I mean, it sounds cool. But for me personally, it's like just a change in setting. I mean, that would be cool. Like, it sounds pretty sci-fi, and for the record, I don't believe it either. But if we did get something like that, I wouldn't complain at all.
Choke out saliva. Oh yeah.
Don't die.
No, yeah, but I'm with you. I mean, it's really cool, right? But at the same time, again, it is a rumor. But let me see what some of you guys in the chat are saying about it. Zach Big says, I don't believe it for a second. Is Ash going to find a time machine? Actually, it's interesting you bring that up, because in Generation 2, there was a time machine, and you could go back, I think it was like 2 or 3 years, to get Pokemon from Kanto from Generation 1, and bring them in. It was basically like a storyline. They came up with a plot to bring in Pokemon for previous games. But there has been time travel they dabble with that. And in fact, in Ultra Sun and Moon, they really dabble with time and space. Like you go through different like parallel universes, through dimensional rifts. And I believe I didn't play Ultra Sun and Moon in its entirety, so I only played Sun and Moon. But I heard that Giovanni, which is the original bad guy from the first Pokemon games, the original leader for Team Rocket, he was talking about going to a whole new world and maybe taking advantage of like these dimensional portals. That's what I heard. So then that would kind of set up a storyline where they could go into the future, right? Or he could, right? But I don't think this Pokemon game is going to have Ash, for the record. But, this is all speculation. I don't know. It's just cool.
Mm-hmm. It'd be interesting if it did have Ash. They'd like to add an actual main character instead of like, an avatar. That'd be interesting.
Yeah. I did see Pixelpar, who's this guy that a lot of Pokemon tubers follow and interact with. He's always like drawing images, teasing like insider information about Pokemon stuff. And I don't know if a lot of people believe he has insider information. I don't know if he actually does, but he was writing some images about an Ash with a Pikachu and a Gary with an Eevee, right? So what if we went back to Kanto and instead of having the original starters we either went with Pikachu or Eevee instead, right? And it was more narrative driven. I personally would prefer to have the starters, but I wouldn't mind them to go that route where you follow both Gary and Ash and you have a Pikachu and an Eevee instead.
Yeah, that'd be interesting.
Yeah. So then, is there anything else you guys want to say to these Pokemon rumors before we move on to the final topic?
No, I'm good.
I guess we're all Pokemon'd out. I guess it's about time we get that reveal already. So then, today, Star Fox Grand Prix has been rumored and leaked and reported by many different sources, and it is still rumor territory. Don't let me. I don't want to like fool you guys or anything. It is still considered a rumor. It is not confirmed. However, many different sources have come out and heard, and like first it came out like on 4chan and then Reddit, but then a lot of other like sources that have insider information like, oh wait, we've heard same things, like Game Explain, Eurogamer. They're coming out and saying, hey, look, yeah, we've heard similar things, and since it's another rumor since the cat's out of the bag, they're all talking about it now. The situation is a lot like the Mario Rabbids Kingdom Battle thing last year. So then, Will, when you hear about Star Fox Grand Prix, like, do you think it's legitimate based off how many people are like reporting about it, or what are your thoughts on this?
I think it's legit because I've been hearing about it myself. No, I'm just kidding. I think it's legit. I think everyone did like go crazy when Eurogamer pretty much gave it its blessing, but I do think it's legit, whether everyone is behind it or not. It sounds awesome. I do remember saying something in the last podcast about Retro Studios doing like an F-Zero or something like that.
I've been talking about that for months. I'm praying for an F-Zero, and this is kind of slap in the face, but yeah. And
then like but then when they use like the words, they compared it to F-Zero, and they compared it to Diddy Kong Racing, which I think is pretty cool. Like overall, I think the idea is pretty cool. The artwork looks a little weird, but yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
I think the artwork they showed was from it was actually just something taken out of Star Fox Command, because one of the endings is that they actually go to the F-Zero universe and they turn their some reason rings, excuse me.
Let me shed some. Yeah, so the thing is that F-Zero and Star Fox have had like nods towards each other. Like in F-Zero, there is a couple characters that are basically like homages to actual Star Fox. Like there's a character called James McCloud. He's basically like a humanoid version of Star Fox. Even his R-Wing, his ship, his vehicle, his racing car is an R-Wing, right? And there's even a character called Rob. right? And Rob is also in Star Fox. Like, they have characters that are basically, I don't want to say rip-offs, but they're homages to them. And if you check the lore, like, it's almost like it's an alternate reality. And even at the end, like you said, Brandon, at the end of one of the Star Fox Command endings, Falco and Fox retire, and they change their R-Wings into ships, and they can go into the G0 League, not F-Zero League, the G0 League, right? But it's obviously pointing towards an F-Zero sort of like thing. I think it's like a parallel universe where they join a Grand Prix. So just like F-Zero, where they have, and actually the story for F-Zero is that all the racing cars in F-Zero are actually like battle and flight vehicles that were transitioned over into racing cars, right, for these tracks. So that's the same thing with the Star Fox ending, where they changed these battle spaceships, the R-Wings, into racing vehicles. So it's obviously like a tie-in, and the idea that this game could be based off of that, where they sort of tie it into the F-Zero universe, is really cool to me, but also at the same time incredibly upsetting, because this game could mean we might not get an F-Zero anytime soon, because it could be too similar. Mars, are you a big F-Zero fan?
I mean, I remember playing it, and I have to agree with you on that, about how it'll push F-Zero away if this is true, right? But I mean, when it first came out, I saw social media was just ablaze, and a lot of people upset. But I think you have to try something new, and so I like Nintendo for that. I mean, what happens if you never put Mario in a cart? You know, you never get that. So, you know, I like that they're trying something new if this comes to be, and it might be a good game. Like, as it went on today, I thought, I was like, hey, this might not be bad. And somebody brought up in the chat, I was gonna say this too. It reminds me of Pod Racer 64. So if it pans out to be anything like that, I'm with it.
Gosh, Pod Racer 64 is the best. It's so good.
Pod Racers.
If you never played that game, Andres,
you're not talking about the Star Wars one, right?
Yeah, Star Wars.
Oh, you are talking about the
Pod
Star Wars
Racers.
one. Yeah, no, of course I
I
played that. Yeah.
Yeah, like the best racing game on the N64.
No, you didn't play F-Zero X, obviously.
I didn't actually. I didn't.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, like, I could really harp on the fact how this could mean the death of the F-Zero franchise, even though it's been kind of in slumbering for a really long time. Even though each game has been reviewed really well, it's just the sales haven't backed it up.
I don't know about the death. I don't know about the death of it.
I don't know. I want an F-Zero game, but this game itself, like, just let's get rid of the F-Zero bias here. Like, this game itself, I think sounds like a really, really good idea, right? The idea where you merge the Star Fox universe, which has tons of really cool characters, so you can have a lot of witty banter as you're racing. Maybe, and they said there's gonna be an adventure mode, and there's gonna be boss fights. You know, it's gonna be kind of like a Diddy Kong Racing as well. Like, you know, it seems to be pulling up from a lot of different, like, really cool concepts, right? And together, it could be a very unique racing game that revitalizes the Star Fox franchise. Oh, and for those who haven't heard yet, apparently it's being developed by Retro Studios. So,
yes.
And if they're making it, I know it's gonna be a good game. Retro Studios has never made a bad game. Every game is great, bare minimum. Like, yeah. So I'm excited about it. I just, again, you know, I'm gonna stop talking about F-Zero. Hopefully there's room for both in the future. But this game alone, the concept of it, even though it's different, I think different's a great thing, right? I mean, Mario Rabbids Kingdom Battle last year sounded so weird, but hey, a lot of people love it, right? I mean, heck, Metroid Prime, which to me is one of the best games ever made. That game, when it was we first heard about it back in the early 2000s, like, it was just like, oh my god, we were like, what the hell? Metroid shouldn't be a first-person shooter. What's wrong with you guys? And lo and behold, Metroid Prime is considered to be one of gaming's greats. So I'm excited about it. But Brandon, you know, you're not that big of an F-Zero fan. I'm not saying you wouldn't be, but you haven't really played them that much. You know, when you hear about this Star Fox game, what does it make you feel?
Yeah, I mean, at first it makes me feel, no, what if this is like the opposite? You're all worried about F-Zero being dead. I'm all worried about, like, normal Star Fox being dead.
Oh, that's another good point.
Like, we need an actually good real Star Fox game. Star Fox Zero was not good. It felt super rushed. The controls weren't good. It was it's just another copy of N64 one. The graphics weren't good. It didn't have multiplayer. There's just all these problems, and it was like, I want an actually good one. But that was my first thought, and then I kind of got into what it was all about, and I thought it could work really well. I mean, they said it's going off that Diddy Kong Racing, where it could have like an explorable HUD, which I think something Mario Kart should have done a long time ago. Honestly, Mario Kart, I really hope like Mario Kart 9 or something has an explorable hub world, excuse me. And like I think there's the possibility of having that kind of plane, car, and boat mechanic, because you got the Landmaster, you got the R-Wing, and if I'm not mistaken, there's like a form of the R-Wing that can ski on water, if I'm not mistaken. So they already have kind of the water thing down as well.
I think it's just it riding lower. It might shift its... Because the R-Wing has all-range mode, and then, just normal, like, on-rails mode as well. So that might... It does shift, though. Like you said, there is a minor transformation, like a full-on transformation.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then Star Fox Zero introduces the Gravmaster, right? Which is like an in-between of the R-Wing and the Landmaster, and the Walker, right? So what if it has all of these different transformations depending on the environment? Like, hey, I actually thought the Walker was really cool. It just needed to be implemented in the right way. And imagine being on the R-Wing, and then you swoop down, and then you run into this raptor-like sort of like machine, and you're just running really quickly through like smaller areas, right? And that, I think, could be a really awesome transition.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think there's just a lot of possibilities here, and just possibilities to even, take kind of, maybe what they're doing is they're taking F-Zero and they're evolving it with Star Fox,
merging it into one.
Mm-hmm.
If Captain Falcon was in this game, that'd be interesting. I do think, though, that the Star Fox universe is like an animal universe, right? And the F-Zero universe is like humanoid. So it's like they're like separate universes. Now, they could sort of just combine them if they wanted to. So I guess one possibility is either A, they have like a Captain Falcon animal version, or they just merge them, and they combine universes, and it's a true crossover.
My money is on them just merging them.
So you think
those guys could be considered just an alien race, or like obviously to their prospective selves, they're like, oh yeah, well you're humans, and then he's like, oh yeah, you're animal race furry people, And then like they were all together in Brawl. It didn't seem weird to me.
Yeah,
right.
I mean, they could do that. I mean, it's space, right? There are so many options for sure. They could do that. I would be disappointed to see them combining two franchises into one. And because then that could imply we won't get them separately in the future. But hey, I wouldn't mind a crossover if it's just meant to be a crossover for this one time, right? Or it becomes like I just don't want F-Zero to die.
Well, that's kind of like a side effect of being irrelevant. But I do think that if it can't be a crossover, that doesn't make sense. Because if it was a crossover, they still trademark the two brands, or rather properties, separately. Like they still trademark Star Fox alone, and then F-Zero alone. If there was something on there, it would be like Star Fox cross F-Zero, like, or something.
Yeah. So Mars, to kind of like, I guess, what do you think would happen if do you think it's possible that they could create this Star Fox racing game, right? And maybe it is in a way kind of like a cross of F-Zero, but still create it in a way where it feels so different that there's still room for an F-Zero a couple years down the line.
Yeah, I do think that that would have to be the case, because just to give you a little hope, I mean, they're going to support the Switch from about 8 to 10 years, so you can fit a F-Zero game in there even with the low sales. I think they can find the base. If they can sell 400,000 copies of F-Zero, I think they will call that a victory. And but so yeah, with that said, I think that you can do it with the space created to have that game, and then you can still get your Star Fox as well, and then have this spinoff.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, I do think that there's a way that they can design each game and there be room for each one. Like, this Star Fox game can be more like of an animated style with witty banter, right? Where it is more kind of like the Diddy Kong Racing style, but in the Star Fox universe, where you are racing and flying around and transitioning, kind of like, the Sonic Racing game and Diddy Kong Racing, but it's more witty and anime like, right? And then F-Zero is more like a super fast, hardcore like racing game. Like, I think there's still like room to have kind of both, even though both technically would be futuristic racers, right?
Yeah.
So it's possible, and I'm hopeful that that's the direction they go in.
Yeah.
And there could also still be traditional Star Fox as well.
Mm-hmm. See, because when I think of this game, I don't think of super fast, and that's F-Zero, and you still need that.
Yeah.
You need that lane. You need that category.
Yeah, because Mario Kart's also not super fast, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, so, and yeah, this game with the flying and the transforming and the battling, like, it wouldn't need to go. Obviously, I think there should be speed, right? But not like 2, 3, 4,000 kilometers an hour, right? Like F-Zero. So yeah, I think there is room to have those. So I have hope, that since we're talking about this in this way, I have hope that we can still see an F-Zero in the future. And this could maybe actually be a series that could maybe expand the universe for Star Fox and maybe open up more story like options for a more traditional Star Fox game going forward also.
Right. Yeah, I'm wondering if there will be more Star Fox elements than some people are thinking. I've heard many different ideas. Like, Star Fox, would you be able to shoot things? Like, because there's supposedly there's boss battles and all this kind of stuff. There'd be obstacles maybe you have to blow out of your way lest you crash, or different paths you can take that go different ways, maybe even lead to different races and stuff like that. Because Star Fox has a lot of different elements I think could work for this.
Yeah, that kind of is how Diddy Kong Racing is. It's pretty open. With the boss battles and stuff, different paths take you in different ways. Yeah, I can see what you mean, especially with the Star Fox inspiration, because usually there are 1 or 2 pathways in Star Fox that you can take, as an alternate route to your to what they want you to take, or what would be most people's route.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, I'm just I'm trying to envision the game in my head, right? And I could see that. Like, I mean, it basically sounds like what's the name of the game? I said it earlier. Like Sonic All-Star Racing Transformed, right? The Sonic kart racer that came out a few years ago, right? Like, it sounds a lot like that. Except hopefully it still feels different. But here's the thing, though. Like, if it's a racing game, like, how much of an emphasis will there be on shooting? I think there should be. I would love it to always be an option, but maybe it won't always be an option. Because what if it's how do you think they could implement that, or will they just have it just for boss battles?
Sounds like an adventure mode thing. I don't think anyone. I mean, in racing, that's an interesting question. I don't think they do it in racing, but.
So you think there should be separate modes?
Just adventure mode.
Okay.
It makes sense. Like, you aren't in Diddy Kong, you aren't able to attack other people. Traditionally, you aren't able to attack other people. So, it's just like an adventure mode thing.
Okay.
I personally kind of like the idea of it somehow finding a way to incorporate shooting into the racing, right? But maybe what happens is that when you go into boss battles, it sort of changes into an all-range mode, right? Like, when you change to all-range mode in Star Fox, you have complete 3D movement, but when you're doing the other parts, it's like you're kind of on rails, right? So maybe you can shoot more when you're fighting boss battles and you're adventuring, but when you're racing, I still feel like they could have that be an element, where shooting is an option. Right. So it could be an offensive, racer where there's still, you can take out opponents, right?
Maybe you could pick up items or something, like pick up ammo along the track or something like that.
I could see that.
Yeah, that's a possibility. It would definitely make it feel more like a kart racer, which we're hearing comparisons to Diddy Kong Racing in terms of the adventure mode, but I don't know if it's going to feel like a kart racer, right? Like, do you guys think it's going to feel like a kart racer, or is it going to feel more like a flying racing game?
I'm thinking more of a flying racing game.
Yeah.
But I think it was going to be interesting. You're going to be flying. I guess you like limited shooting, but then it's gonna slow down when you get to the battles. Like you're gonna be racing and then okay, a battle, and then I guess race again.
Well, the way I'm thinking about it, right? Because let's assume, I mean, well, I'm already making an assumption, right? But if going with the assumption that this is sort of a kind of tagging on to that story, the end that storyline where Falco and Fox retire with one of the Star Fox Command endings, and then they get into the Grand Prix mode and they change their artworks into the racing vehicles. What if like we follow that storyline? It's in the future where they're racers in this Grand Prix, and that their job is to race, right? Like that's their job. So they do have to go and race, but in between there's a storyline going on where there's maybe some of the racers are more antagonistic, and there's some sort of evil force where they're forced to adventure outside of the races, and then they have to. That's where we see more of the adventuring and the boss battles. But ultimately, they have to get to a Grand Prix at a certain point in time because that's their job. Right, so maybe we could see them going in between both within the adventure mode, and then separately they could just have a mode where you have the races to just play for fun.
Yeah, I see what you're saying.
Yeah.
No, that doesn't sound good at all.
It doesn't sound good at all.
Mm-hmm.
How so?
It sounds all right, man. What I meant to say was it doesn't sound like what I was thinking. But,
well, what are you thinking?
Doesn't matter.
Well, I want to know what angle you think they could take for this.
I'm glad you would like to know that, but I wouldn't like to partake in the discussion right now.
Okay. Brandon, like, how do you think they could go about doing this? Like, handling this balance between adventuring, boss battles, and racing?
It's a very interesting question. I'm wondering maybe they would just do a race and then a battle and then a race and then or like a couple races and then a battle. I think they would be separate. Maybe I don't see how they would flow very well together. Like you're in a race and then you're battling, and then you're in a race again.
Mm-hmm.
So I feel like they would be separate, but maybe they could have a thing where like halfway through the race, maybe you have to defeat a certain amount of enemies to move on. Maybe that could be something they do. Or like I've heard some people talk about maybe target practice or something like that. I'm wondering, maybe if you're like some races, you get halfway through and it's like, oh, a bunch of enemies are here and you have to defeat 10 of them to move on or something like that. That could be something they do. I don't know, just throwing out ideas here.
Yeah. I guess personally, I don't like the idea of them getting into a sort of mode where, oh, you have to kill these certain enemies, you have to complete these certain objectives before you move on. I feel like I've played a lot of games like that, and they kind of get repetitive. So, I'm not saying it has to be repetitive. It depends on how they do it, obviously. But when I hear that, I worry that it could become repetitive, right? It ultimately comes down to how they balance the game. But then I guess that makes me think, though, right? Like, how big is this game? Like, how ambitious is it, right? Like, is it just like an arcade racer with a small story mode? Or is this like a very ambitious kind of game? Because what else has Retro Studios been working on this whole time? If it isn't a big, ambitious game.
I mean, they could be working on multiple games.
They could be.
They could be working on this and say another 2D Donkey Kong or 3D Donkey Kong.
I saw earlier that there was a tweet that said they were working on allegedly they were working on something else, but it got canned.
Okay, and that would make if the project gets canceled, that obviously slows down development. That would answer why we haven't seen anything else from them. That makes sense.
See if I can find it.
Yeah. But guys in the chat, we are winding down. This is the last topic. So is there anything you guys want us to address or talk about? Bring it up in the chat now before we end the discussion. Mars, is there anything else about this Star Fox Grand Prix idea that you want to sort of talk about or speculate about?
I think how you were just asking, like how ambitious is the game?
Yeah.
It might be along the lines of what was that, Metroid Federation? Not something to be taken too seriously, but just, I guess, something to have out there.
Right, like just because they're making that doesn't mean that we aren't gonna get a Star Fox or F-Zero game. That makes sense. See, and I guess, or at least for in terms of Star Fox, it could mean we might not get F-Zero, but at least for Star Fox, it doesn't mean that this is the last of Star Fox.
Yeah.
And on to that point, and when I think about it, Star Fox has actually gotten a fair bit of love, right? Like obviously we may be getting this, right? And then we got Star Fox 2 with the Super Nintendo Mini, and of course Star Fox Zero wasn't that long ago, right? And then they also had the animated short for Star Fox to go along with Star Fox Zero. So the Star Fox series isn't dead. They keep on going back, even though Star Fox Zero wasn't that successful, right? Like they still have had things for it. So, yeah, I think that there's still at least hope for Star Fox going forward.
Right.
Yeah.
Hope so. I really want a new game. That's really, really good. Because I think that series has a lot of potential.
Yeah, so let's see. So No Filter is saying Star Fox Assault was an awesome game. Best Star Fox game. I actually agree with you, No Filter. Star Fox Assault, I think, had the right idea for Star Fox. I think the man parts were fine. Maybe they could have done a little bit more to make it feel more optimized and flow a little better, but overall I love the missions. I love the multiplayer mode. My only problem with the multiplayer mode back on the GameCube is that I didn't have people to play with. So, if they were to go back to that style, I think they just need to have it online and more characters. Like that would be beast. Heck, maybe this game propels the series, and then they can go and do that a couple years from now, like Star Fox Assault, or they call it something else. Like that would be fantastic for me. I'd love the heck out of it.
I went back and I emulated Star Fox Assault to see it because I heard so many good things about it. I didn't like it that much. I just felt like the missions weren't as interesting. The places you go to weren't as interesting. There's too much all ranged mode and very small bases and stuff. I remember I didn't like those stages where you fly around in a base and you had to take it out. It was just thought it was boring. I don't know. I didn't think it felt like the levels weren't as fun as the original Star Fox 64. But I liked that it did things differently, and it had a different story and different things. The multiplayer was really good, so I like some of the things I did. But I think overall Star Fox 64 is a way better game. Right.
I think it's the multiplayer that's the point that No Filter is getting at, though. Is just because that multiplayer, you had the maps were pretty big, especially considering the GameCube era.
Yeah.
Right, and there's tons of weapons and items, tons of them, and each character had different stats. But also, you could fly in an armor, you can get it on a Landmaster, and I can only imagine these different types of vehicles being incorporated into the combat, right? On top of running around as a man, that. There's a lot of options there, and they could really expand upon that in the future if they ever go back to that style, which I know a lot of people want. I would love that. But that doesn't take away from what I think they're doing with this. I think this is a great idea from what we're hearing.
Right.
So, I'm excited regardless. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, like you said, Retro Studios is working on it. They haven't had a bad game. And they got 2 universes to pick stuff from and put it together. So, I mean,
yeah,
they could put together something amazing.
No, yeah, I have faith in Retro for sure. What'd you say, Will?
Potentially 3, if we're considering Diddy Kong Racing.
Oh yeah, Diddy Kong.
As far as mechanics.
And actually, I wouldn't be surprised if just as a throw, kind of like an homage, they could throw in some of the Donkey Kong characters since they've been working in the Donkey Kong series. They could just be character. If it's a racing game, right, you're gonna have multiple racers, right? So maybe they could have a Donkey Kong or a Diddy, especially Diddy, to have that reference to Diddy Kong Racing along with Donkey Kong Country in the game. And I mean, Star Fox is a world of animal characters, right? So putting in a few monkeys and apes that, it fits perfectly, really. So
could work.
Yeah.
Not really, but I think it would be cool.
No space monkeys, Will.
I'd say it depends on Retro Studios' prerogative, and how much they get with Nintendo and whatnot. They're okay, let's borrow from Donkey Kong now. Let's borrow from here now. Let's borrow from there now.
Well,
yeah, or no. So.
Yeah, well, I mean, just to, I guess, in Donkey Kong Tropical Freeze, there is an Easter egg where we saw Samus Aran's ship fly up in one of the earlier levels in a Donkey Kong stage, right? So, you know, maybe it isn't anything major, but they could have at least a Donkey Kong Easter egg in Star Fox.
Probably.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I think it would be cool. Like, it would be like crazy because they're just the whole Donkey Kong crew, the DK crew or whatever. They're really effective, and it's almost like humorous. Like they have peanut guns that are way more effective than regular guns. So
Right.
what would they pull out of their arses to make them, like, what do they have that could compete with the R-Wing? I'm sure they have something, and I think it would be hilarious.
I didn't even consider that angle, right? Like, I was just thinking about the characters themselves, but, like, what if each, like you're saying, like, I guess each character could have, like, their own distinctive type of vehicle. I mean, if we think about it, in F-Zero, they all have distinctive vehicles, right? So, like, each one could be different and pertain to each character. So...
Ooh, I said peanut gun instead of coconut gun. I'm stupid.
Well, I think Diddy Kong had peanuts. I think Donkey Kong had coconuts.
Yeah, I was talking about 64. That's what I was thinking of, and I was like, oh, peanut. So,
yeah.
Yeah.
It's interesting. I see. I guess from that perspective, it'd be weird because, like, how would you get a Donkey Kong themed spaceship? Like, how? Because it's like bananas and trees and vines. How do you turn that into a spaceship?
You're just in a rocket barrel.
Oh, a rocket barrel with like a glass orb. Yeah, that would be hilarious. Actually, that would work. They could totally do that for sure. Like, if you think about all like the minecart and rocket ship levels in Donkey Kong Country, like, yep, there you go.
There's just jerry-rigged guns on the side.
I can imagine like a banana, like a big floating banana, and then like Donkey Kong is in it, and then like there's like two
Space
rockets
banana
on the back, but they're just barrels, and then there's just fire coming out of the barrels while he just blasts through the galaxy.
That'd be really cool, and I mean, like,
That'd be amazing.
Because it kind of reminds me of King Dedede or DDD's, whatever you guys like to pronounce it as.
DDD.
Hammer. Like, you wouldn't imagine that it has a jet engine in it. Like, you just think it's a big piece of wood. So that's kind of what I'm thinking.
Yeah. No, I mean, actually, now that we talk about it more, it makes a lot of sense. And I mean, it doesn't have to be like a plot-related thing. It could just be like, a little extra that you get later into the game or something, right? Like, think about, like, for example, Breath of the Wild's like motorcycle. Like, that's just, you get it, but it's like a post-game, like, just thing to enjoy if you got the DLC. It's nothing that's like really relevant, So they could, I could see it, honestly. It wouldn't shock me at all. Especially if they go for more of like an anime toon sort of style, right? Where it's more about like the comedy and the banter between characters, right? So, because then it's more of it's lighthearted. It's not taking itself seriously, so you can afford to have things that don't necessarily make 100% sense, right? So I could see it. It would be cool.
Yeah. So
then, yeah, guys, is there anything else you guys want to touch on before we call it a night? I mean, this is I'm kind of like excited to see what we hear about this week, right? Because I didn't expect this much information to happen last week or today. Like, it was just kind of, right? Like, who knows what we're gonna be talking about next week?
I mean, there's been so many things, and the closer to E3, of course, the more you're gonna get. But man, this has been crazy hard to keep up.
Absolutely, exactly. It's been hard to keep up with, and I mean, like, if some people are talking about how Pokemon Switch could be even revealed this week, which they've said that the people have said that like every week, so I'm not gonna really jump on that bandwagon, right? But like, this time next week, we could be like, oh my god, we finally saw Pokemon Switch, and it looks amazing, right? Like, that could be the tune next week. We have no idea, or maybe we'll hear about something else. Maybe there'll be like an exclusive Resident Evil that's rumored next week. Like, there's so many possibilities, but I don't want to raise our expectations too high, right? But there's been a lot of really cool news coming out, and it's been exciting, man. And we still have a month away before E3.
Yeah, a little less than a month.
Yeah. So then, let me see what people are saying in the chat. Savage saying, look, it's too early. Stay for another hour, guys.
Good idea.
Robin Hood's laughing. Oh man. I don't know. We need something to talk about though.
Oh, we cut out a lot of topics, guys. Don't let Andres fool you. No, I'm just kidding.
I mean, well, we're at a good point. We're at about an hour. We're over an hour and a half. I thought that was a good thing. So, I don't know. I think we're good to go.
Hey, well, let me say this right quick. Hey, thank you to everybody that was in your Discord when I was talking earlier. That I was talking about how I was a little nervous, but good words of encouragement. So I really appreciate that, man.
Yeah, dude. I mean, first of all, I'm excited to have you on. I think you did a fine job. Just saying, So you had no reason to be nervous. You're good. Yeah.
Thanks, appreciate it, man.
Yeah, man. Yeah, guys, if you haven't seen Mars before, check out his channel. The link is in the description below. It's Lazy James. Is that how I pronounce it? Right? That's the name of his channel.
Lazy James.
Lazy James.
Yeah,
okay.
I could 2 Z's, yeah.
Yeah. Okay, Lazy James. My bad. So yeah, the link is in the description below, as well as for Brandon and Will's channels as well. Yeah, it was fun. So yeah, I guess awkward ending, but good night, guys. Have a good one.
All right, everybody, take care, man.